the greatest time to live is the most dangerous time to live, and it will always be that way. Sometimes, as you develop upwards, because again, the point of this series is for you to make a major world impact. If you try to do that, it's going to feel like the world is against you at times. And if you don't believe that you can make a change, why would anyone else believe in you? Thus, if we're focused on making a world level impact, then it's key to understand that yes, progress exists and impact does actually make a difference in the course of humanity. See, according to recent data found in ourworldinData.org, more than 9 out of 10 people believe that humanity has not made progress as a species. This is largely due to a massive trick of the mind. Basically, humans are far more prone to sharing angering or fear-inducing content than happy, joyful content at a rate between 2 to 1 or 6 to 1. It's somewhere between that. So mass media outlets have caught on to this fact, and they compete with each other to break the most shocking, most share-worthy headlines with each other. That is, the media is not interested in telling us how the world is actually changing and where the world actually is. They are interested in telling us where the world is going wrong so that it triggers a fear-based reinforcement loop so that you tune in more. So as we move forward, if there's even one bit of your mind still stuck on the idea that we as a species have not made progress, like those other 9 out of 10 sheeple, it will derail your own progress. I mean, really, how are you expected to inspire people to progress the species if you yourself have your head up your ass thinking that progress doesn't exist? So understand the following. When you only consider the world's changes during our lifetime, it's easy to make the mistake of thinking of the world as relatively static, as if what's been here has always been there. But if you take a longer perspective, it becomes very clear that the world is not static at all, that the world is changing and that it's changing fast. I mean, just look at it. It started with the taming of previously uncontrollable fire. After fire came the controlling of the beasts surrounding us. After the beasts came the lands surrounding us, and so on and so forth, all the way until today, where I sit in a room with perfectly controlled heating. I have a tamed animal by my side, and essentially no threat to me at all as I travel around the world. That is completely alien compared to what life was like in yesteryear. And all of this took less than 0.00015% of the amount of time that the universe has been around. So if I take your entire wingspan, okay, both of your arms, and I take a nail file, and I pretended that the length of my arms was the stretch of time, I could take a nail file and I could just with one swipe eliminate all of human history. That's how much we've been able to do in such a small time. So pay attention and repeat after me. Today is the best time to be alive, and tomorrow will be better. It's better to be a lower class person today than it was to be a rich noble in any other time in all of history before today. Again, this point is key to our hero level thinking and key to unhooking yourself from some of the disillusionment that may have gone on. So to really hammer this point in, and as a form of debugging from the bullshit of media, I want to really show you a couple of statistics taken from ourworldinData.org. We're going to go over top 10 statistics, but there's many of these. There's many of them. You can look up, there's hundreds of them. These are the 10 that I thought were most interesting. So first off, life expectancy has doubled in the last 200 years, from 38.2 years to 80.3 years. That's the average amount of time a human will be alive. As of the 1800s, more than 43% of newborns died before their 5th birthday. 43%. But as of 2015, It's less than 4.3% of newborns worldwide. And if we go to America, it's less than 1%. That's unbelievable. In the 1820s, over 90% of the population lived in poverty, meaning that if we made things relative to now, right, money from there and make it the same as money from now, it was as if 90% of the world made less than $1.90 per day. Now, it's less than 10% of the world's population that does that. Generally, infectious diseases have just been eliminated. Just across the board. They used to be one of the biggest ways that people were dying. By this point, they've dropped in rank to like the number 16 way people die. Food scarcity is disappearing. People once consumed only about 2,000 calories a day, and that's if they worked hard enough. Now they easily, on average, consume about 3,000 calories a day. Also, in 1881, roughly 64% of children held steady jobs. Think about that. Children had steady jobs, 64% of them. But by 1961, the rate had fallen to less than 4%. At the beginning of the 20th century, only about 10% of the world population lived in democratic countries. Now it's more than 50% of the world's population. On top of that, if you lived at any other point in history, chances are that you would have been a slave or a serf. You would have worked for someone else for no good reason. And that would have been about a 70% chance if you were just to pop into the life of anybody back then. Now, less than 5% of the world's population is a slave or a serf. Now, 5% is a lot. That's pretty terrible. It's not good to find out that there's a lot of slaves in the world. 5% is a lot, but it's way better than 70%. And again, all this is easily found on Google, of which now more than 76% of the world's population has access to on their mobile phone. So on the whole then, when you look at any given new day, it's basically the best time to be alive. If you had to choose, it's better to pick a random day to live in this year, decade, or century than it is to pick a day to live in any other year, any other decade, or any other century. It's simply past debate. And sure, some people may call for the need to go back to the traditions of yesteryear, and that is true. We do need to acknowledge traditions of old. But those same people would not actually like to live in the days of old. The people who say, oh, I wish we would go back to the 1950s, they don't actually want to live in the 1950s. And you can tell that if you just take away their cell phone for about a week. So, you read the title of this section, and you heard at the very beginning what I said. The greatest time to live is the most dangerous time to live. Well, why is that? It has to do with our good friend energy and entropy. As organisms, entropy, also known as decay, disorder, chaos, disinformation, and confusion, has always been wasting away at us, and we have to absorb sources of energy from other people, other places, other lands. And in our attempt to gain more energy, the more energy we wield, the more we are able to destroy ourselves, because that same amount of energy can easily explode in our face. And that is what we're going to be talking about as we move forward.